64-bit. Let's talk about 64-bit. So, because this caused me some issues earlier, actually. So, under 083, what's being introduced is an optional 64-bit client. You don't have to do anything as a player, but what will happen is Game Center, I assume this probably won't work from the old launcher because they're very close to phasing that out by the sounds of it, but apparently the vast majority of players are now using Game Center. So under Game Center, when you press play on the game, it will look at your PC specs and it will go, can this PC run a 64-bit game client? So, and the main thing it's looking at is RAM. So if you have at least 8 gigabytes of RAM, then it will run the 64-bit client. Obviously, you have to have a 64-bit processor, but you'll have that anyway. And then it will open the 64-bit client instead of the 32-bit client, and that just means you get the benefits of a 64 application. It can use more RAM because a 32-bit application can only address 4 gigabytes of RAM. So it allows you to use more of your RAM chips, and that should help significantly with performance. It also puts a bit more load on your system, and one of the issues I had earlier was I was trying to record some of the PTS stuff for my foghorn for 83, and so what happened was when I opened OBS, I've got OBS tuned. Bear in mind I'm playing on a 4K screen and then downsizing so you can watch it in 1080, and the same thing when I record videos. So my machine is being pushed to do like max graphic settings on a 4K screen. So it's being pushed quite hard. And so I've got it balanced so that OBS is working well and the game is working well, but the machine is being really taxed. And the problem was when I opened up the 64-bit client and I tried to do some recording with OBS, my machine said no. And OBS went and crashed, and yeah, it was horrible. So I had to change some of the settings. Specifically, what I did was I turned on vertical sync. A little tip for you. If you don't like your graphics card going when you're in the port, if you come into settings and you enable vertical synchronization, VSync, this effectively limits the number of frames per second, because I think what happens in the port is that your graphics card is allowed to render as many frames as it possibly can, and it just goes max chat. So if you enable VSync, that just brings that down slightly. So on my machine, it brings it down from 97% on a 1080 Ti down to like 70 something. So that then gives the rest of my machine the headway to do video encoding or whatever. So that's a little geeky, but that means it won't run anymore on my... What on earth is a TI-83? I don't even know what that is. So the 32, it's important people understand, the 32-bit client is still there, and if your machine can't run 64-bit, you can still run the 32-bit client. They're not removing yet the 32-bit client, so don't panic if you've got a low-powered machine, because nothing will change for you. They're withdrawing DirectX 9 support, but frankly, if you've got a machine that can't run more than DirectX 9, probably needs to go in the bin anyway. So they're just introducing 64 as an option. Basically it.